Hey everyone, welcome back to my podcast, Oars of the Big Sky. My name is Logan Kohlberg and I'm your host. Today I'm sitting down with Amber from Moonsong Mystic. Today we will be discussing tarot cards and her journey through spirituality in Montana. Follow along and don't forget to subscribe below. So we can kind of just jump right in.
Okay.
I obviously know your business and stuff and your website, but I wanted to kind of start with maybe your background and your personal journey. And
For sure.
if you could just kind of tell me how you got into tarot in the first place.
So I had a really traumatic childhood, and it's common for people with severe trauma in childhood to be drawn towards spirituality as a form of escape. And that's what happened for me. Is the way I survived childhood was through like escapism, fantasy, Little Mermaid, right? My prince was gonna come save me. And then also like I felt really abandoned by God in childhood. So it sparked this drive in me to find God, if you will.
Yeah, totally.
And then, I had a wild life. I grew up in a really toxic, sorry, my little nose is running, forgive me.
Oh, no, you're good.
I grew up in a really toxic Christian cult. So that was also, a big part of all the trauma and stuff. I'm an incest survivor and just a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I left that when I was like 20, and I kept trying to make religion work for me, but it just, it was too restrictive. It was too restrictive. I was getting saved every Sunday and wasted every Sunday night.
Yeah,
it's like this
totally.
isn't working. There's like a serious disconnect for me. This isn't. So my 20s were a wreck of they're just a wreck. I went to a year-long program for life-controlling issues when I was 33. And one of those primary life-controlling issues for me was self-harm, which is, again, really common with sexual abuse survivors.
Totally.
But it was like, I was 33. It's time to, you know what I mean? Like I guess kind of the realization I had was I wasn't going to die young.
Yeah.
I was going to live a worthless life. And not that anyone lives a worthless life. Like, that doesn't exist. But you get what I mean? Like,
yes,
I knew
totally
I had
do.
a purpose. I knew there was a plan. I knew I was special, but, also had really low self-esteem. So I went to this program, and I did some trauma work around the sexual abuse I experienced, and I actually saw myself for the first time clearly. It was this veil had been lifted, and I really saw myself, and I was like, wow. So that was cool. And then I did that, and then I went and I tried to it was more a lot more free flowing, a lot less restriction, but it was still the religion, right? Still trying to make that shoe fit, because that was my family, right? And I want to fit in with my family.
Yeah.
So, but it didn't work, and I ended up meeting someone and moved away with him, and my life just quickly spiraled out of control again. And then I started going to a 12-step program that introduced me to a higher power of my own understanding.
Yeah.
And that's where things really started to open up for me. And I started connecting and meeting people in that program that had very different belief systems than I had ever experienced. And I was first I was scared. Oh my God, tarot, you want me to watch a tarot video? Oh, that's the devil. But I just expanded until now. It's I know a little, I know nothing, but I've definitely, I guess, so your relationship with a higher power is going to reflect your relationship with yourself. So because I've learned after so much healing
Yeah.
to really love myself, like showing up here and being kind of bitchy and like almost crying and but like through all of that, like I'm like it's okay, Amber. It's okay. Like this is you and you're allowed. Self-acceptance. So like when people ask, what is spirituality? Spirituality in its, to me, purest, truest sense is self-acceptance. And then once you realize that you can accept yourself, that will be mirrored back to you again from a higher power, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
They're
actually,
directly connected, right?
Yeah.
And people always want to separate them, and we always want to look outside of ourselves for something to make us better. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a lot of times what people do is they bypass their actual healing because they're counting on something outside of themselves to make them better. When they actually need to do the work of healing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I hope, did I answer that?
Yeah, no, you really did.
Okay, good. You're lovely, by the way. You're so beautiful and lovely energy. And again, I'm sorry for being such a hot mess, man.
No, it's a Monday. It's a Monday.
Well,
next question, which you've kind of already answered, is like, how did you learn tarot? Did you have like mentors? Did you have like resources? You said the 12-step program. Is that really where you learned tarot?
No, I learned tarot from YouTube.
Oh, okay, cool.
Have you heard of the meditation app Insight Timer? So at the time, I was pretty obsessed with the app and Sarah Blondin on there. I don't know if you know her, but she's awesome. And they offered a tarot, like the meaning of the major arcana in the tarot. So I did that, but mostly it was just watching YouTube.
Yeah.
I learned, there's so many powerful people out there on YouTube, like sharing their truth, and I found a lot of truth that resonated with me and a lot of truth that, isn't for me, but so that's how I learned. And like also just like I jumped in. So before I even knew the tarot, I knew I had a gift. Like I'd been moving in like the mystic realms for a long time.
Yeah.
And the cards were just a really cool tool.
Yes.
So I just started doing readings with people, and then it turned into this, like what you see on my website. But I think the big piece was I had a mentor who taught me a lot about the way I heal myself today, which is like really, like for me, what it looks like is really connecting with those versions of us that still need integration, that are like still feeling abandoned in the abyss, right? And like that's where we find ourselves, in the abyss, or in the void. So I had a mentor kind of lay a little bit of a foundation on how to connect with myself that way, and then I've just expanded and expanded and expanded, and a lot of it again is Insight Timer, YouTube, and trial and error for sure.
Yeah. So the whole point really of this like project and why I'm doing this is I want it to be like a 101 guide for people to like get into it. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. Like I didn't even realize like that's where I started, and like that's how it was taught to me, of like hey, this is like another form of checking in with yourself almost. And it was like, it's really cool to get into, but it's kind of an odd thing to get into, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I kind of want it to be like a 101 guide for people.
Yeah. That's awesome, because sometimes people make it out to be something more complex than it is, and they make it out to be like, you need help, you need my help, like, you know what I mean, you need to sign up for this, you need to, whatever. And it's a really personal journey, because the way the universe is going to show up to you is going to be as unique as you. Sometimes I have clients who, as soon as they get in my energy, they just start crying. They have so much unprocessed, like their emotional body is like right at the surface, just waiting for my energy to crack it open, right? And sometimes people don't cry, and that's okay. Sometimes there's a lot of laughter. it's just every session, sometimes it's a combination. Like every session is so wild, and that's why I love what I do. And even the way the universe continues to show up for me, which a lot of times is people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're looking for the burning bush or the strike of lightning or you know. And it's like, no, Logan right here in front of me sharing a little bit about her is like higher power showing up for me, right? We're each an expression. It's like if higher power were a diamond, we're each a facet of that diamond.
Totally.
And it comes back to, because part of spirituality too, so self-acceptance, self-love, and oneness consciousness, which is simply what I do to you, I do to me. What I do to myself, I do to you. We are one, right? So there's the ocean idea where you are your own unique, specific raindrop or drop of the ocean, but also you are one with the ocean, and becoming part of that oneness can bring a lot of peace if that's, again, a tool that you find helpful. Some people aren't into visualization. They need to move their body to get what they need.
So, I totally get that. That's cool. So I guess some of my first questions are like, how did you, like, living in Montana, do you find it hard? Do you have a good client base in Montana? In like a rural area, someone would call it like more conservative, you know?
Yeah.
Like what kind of struggles do you see in your client base on that way?
Thanks for asking. Well, I think I'm lucky that my ex-husband and I chose Missoula not knowing it was the most liberal spot in Montana.
Totally.
So I feel like that was lucky. That was higher power.
That was lucky.
You know? And through my 12-step community, because we're from South Lake Tahoe, and it's like the Nevada-California border.
Okay.
And what was I saying? Oh, the way I built up my business was unintentionally and intentionally connecting with that 12-step community, right? Because they became my friendship group, right? And so that was really supportive and helped build it back there. And then I did the same thing here. I jumped in, started building friendships, relationships. People were curious. And I mean, it's like there's different kinds of 12-step people, and some of them can still be very religious, and then some of them are more my vibe, right? So a lot of them have worked with me, but it's like I go through busy seasons and slow seasons. I'd say it's just and like, so I'm in a big healing season, a big transformational time in my life. I'm going through a really messy divorce. And so it's almost like I'm healing at the same pace that I'm attracting the people I'm meant to connect with.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, cool.
I like that. So something I was kind of curious about, and it's interesting that you're from California. This may have like a new perspective to it.
Yeah.
Since we're in such like a nature state, do you see a lot of connection to nature and spirituality here in Montana?
100. Dude, there's a squirrel in our backyard. I was actually thinking about it a lot today, because like spirit animals, right? Like God's talking through everything all the time. It's like, it sounds kind of extreme. God is either everything or nothing. And when I mean God, I mean source. And for me, source is the sun in our solar system, and we're all orbiting around the sun, right? Gosh, nature. Yeah, so I'm like, man, what does this squirrel want me to know? And I was just seeing like how they're always busy and how they plan for the future. And it's like, what's the message in there for me? And also, I don't know, I feel like just to not take ourselves too seriously, like this fucking squirrel, right? So absolutely through nature, because water, earth, wind, and fire, right? Nature, us. And the combination of those four elements creates ether, God, like underneath everything and in everything, like every fiber of your being, every molecule of this looks like a chalkboard is supported by this energy that is ether. So yeah, I guess just all that to say that yes, nature is definitely like the face of God. And we are nature, you know what I mean? So it's the face of the tree and the face of Logan. It's all God. And really that's part of what our culture does is we separate things. We like to compartmentalize, like this is God on Sunday morning. This is party on Saturday night, right? This is school time. Whatever it is, we like to compartmentalize, and we don't realize, or at least, my theology, God is in, like, everything is sacred, even the horrors of life, even my childhood. Like, what if we were such creator beings that I incarnated knowing what I would experience so that I would be forced to heal the wounding that I incarnated with, right? Like So Blech, you get it.
I totally do, yeah. I guess kind of switching a little bit. So how long have you been doing client readings?
I started in December of 19. So what is that? Will it be 5 years?
Yeah.
This December?
Yeah.
Feels like way longer. But then also I can remember my first one like it was yesterday. I was so freaking nervous. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Fortunately, I wasn't charging hardly anything because that was appropriate. I was like, hey, they're my guinea pig. The super sweet family. Yeah, it was really cool.
On that note, do you have a most memorable tarot card experience that you just, like a client or something that you just always refer back to in your life?
It's a fun question.
It's kind of a crazy one, so.
Yeah, well, no, I just, as I'm looking through, I just see, I guess what it is a person either connects deeply with me and what I offer, or they don't. So, I'd say probably 80-90% of the time, I'm able to help them go deeper into their subconscious and unconscious. But that 10-15%, it's just really hard. It's like, it feels like you're pushing against an energetic brick wall because they're just, you get what I'm saying. So I wouldn't say, I guess I remember it being really great, or I remember it being a learning curve.
Yeah. Totally fair.
No. I guess you know what? The most memorable one is two beautiful Reiki masters who didn't tell me they were two beautiful Reiki masters. And my higher power, or guides, intentionally had me give a message to one of them, well, really both of them, that was quite inaccurate. And halfway or more, into the session, they're really revealing, yes, things you're saying are resonating, but not in the way you think, which is very, that's why a YouTube video will resonate with a million people, because we interpret the information in the ways that we need.
Yeah.
So they're like, you're on point, but and the reason my guides, and really their guides, had set me up like that, because I was pretty oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, this is I'm a professional, I promise, I'm not just pulling cards out of my butt. And what it ended up being was one of them had a severe a spiritual trauma. She'd been abused by a spiritual practitioner. And the way the session had gone was very, very triggering for her, right? Because she already had this wound from someone in supposed spiritual authority, which is not real. That's not real. Sure, some people have more knowledge, but I'm not over anybody and nobody's over me. But anyways, when you're in a session, you're the guide. So it unintentionally, people put you as an authority. And I guess in a way you are. Thanks for letting me verbally process that. Anyways, it triggered the hell out of her, and then my guides told me, like, she has a spiritual wound and that's what's going on. So we got to heal it, and it was really, really intense work.
Wow.
But it was like, yeah, just unforgettable.
Yeah.
And just again, like, I never know what the universe is up to. And I just have to trust that, you know, and trust that I am doing my best to be a clear channel.
Totally. That's really cool.
Yeah. Are we all done? You want me to pull you a card?
Just one more question for you.
Yeah.
So for people really getting into tarot, like, do you have any advice? I know there's like 7 million different decks out there, 7 million different options of getting into it, and so it can kind of be intimidating. Do you have any just like initial advice for people?
Let me think for a second here. You know, I would just, like, okay, so here's how I picked my first tarot deck.
Mm-hmm.
I just, searched tarot decks and a million things, like you said, pulled up, and I just started looking at the imagery and the name of the deck. So the first deck I got, it's called Spirit Song, which really resonated with me because I speak in this light language and I sing, and it's like a big part of my creative expression, right? So Spirit Song, I was like, oh my gosh. And then it's an animal deck, which was really cool too. So that was my first deck. My second deck was more of the traditional tarot, so I could learn the traditional meaning of the cards. Does that make sense? So there's all these decks, but not all of them, look like the original tarot deck, which I think that's like, I remember learning the origins of all that, but it's been a long time, so I won't try and regurgitate it.
That's okay.
And then other people, it's like, so in the traditional tarot deck, the Knight of Pentacles is a man in armor riding a dark horse carrying this like golden pinnacle, and you can tell it's a very slow moving energy. The Knight of Pentacles in this animal deck, I think it's it's some kind of creature. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I didn't know, looking at that card, what it was. So I had to learn like what a Knight of Pentacles was traditionally, so then I could use that knowledge across all the decks that use different imagery and verbiage and all that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, I would say go on there and just trust yourself to pick the right deck for you. If you really want to get into it, maybe get a more traditional deck so you can really learn, because the meaning of each card, like, the tarot is like its own portal. So there's just it's just limitless, its power, really. And and then as far as like teachers and like, if you were interested in learning through YouTube like I did, again, just start like, YouTube channels, and you'll vibe, and then you'll click on ones that you're like, oh my god, no, like, and that's okay too. It's teaching you what your vibe is and what it isn't, and that's how we all learn, and that learning process never stops.
Yeah.
So
Totally. Yeah.
I'm excited for you.
Thank you so much for answering those.